Inside a modern hospital in Japan, we see Kanji, a brilliant pharmacist who works day and night without giving himself even a single second to breathe. But Kanji is not chasing money, fame, or success. Deep inside, he is still carrying the pain of losing his younger sister when he was young, and that one tragedy turned his whole life into a non-stop mission to save people through medicine. His secretary keeps warning him that his body is getting weaker, but Kanji ignores everything and keeps working like his own life does not matter. Then one night, after pushing himself far beyond his limit, he finally decides to rest for just 1 hour. But that 1 hour becomes the last hour of his life. His exhausted heart suddenly gives up, and Kanji dies alone in the middle of the night. But the real twist begins when he opens his eyes again and finds himself inside a completely different world, in the body of a young noble boy named Pharma. The first person he sees is a maid named Charlotte, who is looking after him. And while Kanji is still shocked by his new body, strange room, and impossible situation, Charlotte removes the bandages from his arms, and both of them freeze when they notice a mysterious mark on his skin. Pharma mistakes it for some kind of symbol, but Charlotte immediately sees it as a divine mark. Then Pharma asks for water, and Charlotte becomes shocked because the real Pharma was supposed to have divine arts, the power to create magic, yet he seems to have forgotten everything. A few moments later, Pharma tries to learn how to use those divine arts, but while attempting water magic, he almost floods the entire room and sends a powerful stream flying out of the window, accidentally soaking the herb garden outside. Instead of getting angry, Charlotte feels grateful because the garden was watered, and soon after, while helping him get dressed, she asks about his family. But when Pharma cannot answer properly, Charlotte panics, thinking he may have lost his knowledge and memories. Later, Pharma enters the dining room and meets the people who are now his family in this world. His father, Bruno, is relieved that his son is safe, while Pharma tries his best to act normal so no one realizes that he is actually a different person inside this body. His mother, Beatrice, and his younger sister are also there, and Bruno says with relief that Pharma can soon return to his studies. However, everyone quickly notices that something is not right, so Pharma avoids suspicion by saying that he was struck by lightning, and that must be why he cannot remember certain things. A little later, Pharma goes with his teacher to the riverbank for divine art lessons, where he asks about the null attribute and learns that his ability to create substances based on chemical formulas would be considered the power of either a god or a demon in this world. Ellen is already surprised when Pharma accidentally forgets his wand, but then she demonstrates a spell called Water Lance and fires a stream of pressurized water. Pharma tries to copy her and produces an even stronger water lance, making Ellen step back in shock. Afterward, she tests Pharma's power level, but the measuring device breaks because his power is far beyond its limit, and it shows that he has both positive and negative attributes. When Ellen sees the mark on Pharma's arm glowing blue, she becomes terrified because burn marks do not glow like that. While they return to the mansion, Pharma holds Ellen's hand to help her walk because without her glasses she can barely see. And during this moment, he thinks about the god of medicine, Panaxios, and gives Ellen advice to help her see better. When she tries it, she realizes that it actually works. Later, Pharma uses one of his abilities called Divine Sight and discovers that Ellen has a sprain in her finger. But when she sees this power and also realizes that Pharma has no shadow, fear takes over her completely, and she runs toward the trees while Pharma stands there, wondering what he should do. The next day, Bruno receives a carrier pigeon with a note from Ellen saying she feels unwell and wants to stop being Pharma's tutor, which does not surprise Pharma too much. Bruno then gives Pharma a potion and a letter and asks him to deliver them to Ellen. Pharma rides to Ellen's mansion, but when he arrives, he finds her wearing iron armor because she is afraid he might harm her with his powers. Pharma then secretly replaces the medicine his father gave her with one he made himself, and because of that, Ellen thinks it might be poison, but Pharma calmly tells her it is not. He also gives her a bouquet of flowers and tells her that he wants her to continue being his tutor. The next day, Ellen returns to train Pharma and admits that the medicine he gave her was very useful. After that, she takes him to a deserted island while still wearing armor for safety, and they train intensely there. During this time, Ellen promises that she will stay by Pharma's side, and when Pharma returns home, he talks to the servants, tastes their wine, and begins thinking about what kind of medicine he should make next. He starts by creating a hand cream for Charlotte, and she becomes happy because noble pharmacists normally do not treat commoners. The next morning, when Pharma comes down for breakfast, he finds out that his younger sister Blanche has chickenpox. So even though his father ordered her to stay isolated, Pharma enters her room and immediately gives her medicine that he made himself. After Blanche drinks it, Pharma says the method came from a new book. When Blanche starts itching and tries to scratch herself, Pharma quickly stops her and explains it in a way she can understand, saying the virus spreads like an evil spirit. Blanche notices that her brother has become much kinder than before and says he was not like this earlier, but she likes this new version of him. Hearing this makes Pharma cry because he remembers his younger sister from his past life. Later, while making a microscope, Pharma thinks that even in this new life he is still strange because of his powers and the fact that he has no shadow. In the middle of this, Simon calls Pharma because he and his father have been summoned to help treat the queen. According to Bruno, the queen's condition has worsened, and while Pharma listens, he also notices that his father still has the same cough he has been carrying for days. Later, when they arrive at the palace, they meet a strict-looking man named Claude, and Pharma sees Queen Elizabeth lying weakly in bed. He watches his father working with compounds and even astrology in an attempt to help her. But when Bruno prepares an anesthetic potion, Pharma realizes that no one is actually trying to cure the queen. He uses divine sight and discovers that the empress has tuberculosis. Soon, the queen's children appear, heartbroken by her condition, and when Pharma sees their sadness, he understands that he cannot just stand there doing nothing. At that moment, he steps forward and offers to treat her. Everyone except the queen opposes his proposal, but Elizabeth notices something different in Pharma and asks why he has not given up on her like everyone else. A little later, Pharma enters the laboratory and sets up his microscope to examine the saliva sample taken from the queen, but Bruno storms in and demands to know what he is doing. After a short argument, Pharma is surprised to learn that Bruno already knew it was tuberculosis, but Bruno says the disease has no cure. Pharma still insists that both the queen and Bruno must take the medicine he is creating. He begins making a remedy using an illustration as a guide, but Bruno mistakes it for poison and attacks him with divine arts. Without hesitation, Pharma counters his father's power by erasing the ice spikes and creating an ice wall, and when Bruno sees this, he is stunned and asks, "Who are you?" Then Bruno tries to read a book lying nearby, but he immediately realizes he cannot understand what is written inside. Pharma explains that the book contains knowledge of new medicine that he saw in a dream after being struck by lightning. Then Bruno sees the sacred mark in Pharma's book and realizes that the boy has the power of the god Panactheos, which calms him down a little. After finishing the medicine, Pharma returns to the queen's bedroom, and Elizabeth and Claude ask if Bruno stopped him. Pharma says no and walks toward the empress, while Bruno appears behind him. Claude asks Bruno if he should stop Pharma, but Bruno says there is no need, because this boy has more talent than any doctor present in the palace. After that, Pharma lets Elizabeth look through the microscope at the bacteria taken from her body, and Elizabeth is shocked by what she sees. Then she shows the same thing to Claude. And after that, Pharma begins explaining that what they are seeing is the real cause of her illness. Pharma explains that the tiny bacteria they are seeing is the real cause of the queen's illness, then adds that if she takes the medicines he prepared for 6 months, she can fully recover from tuberculosis. After that, he decides to personally supervise her treatment, and to prove that the medicine is safe, he drinks the first dose together with the queen before calmly declaring that tuberculosis is no longer an incurable disease. As expected, the noble pharmacists quickly surround him with endless questions, while the queen watches him with interest and admits that this boy is truly fascinating. After a long trip back home, Pharma and Bruno return to the mansion, where Pharma gives his father medicine for his cough. Bruno jokes that if this is an order from Panactheos, then he has no choice but to obey, and he immediately takes the medicine. Pharma then admits that he still has much to learn and asks Bruno to continue being his mentor. Bruno accepts, and the two shake hands before going back inside. 3 months pass, and during that time Bruno and Pharma begin exchanging knowledge with each other. One day, Bruno tells him that someone has requested the recipe for the medicine he created earlier. Pharma says that for now, he is the only one who can make it, but with time, he hopes to develop a method to produce it without divine arts, because medical knowledge should be shared with everyone. Hearing this, Bruno warns him that such thinking could be seen as heresy, and he also mentions a disturbing rumor that someone may have deliberately brought the disease into the palace to infect Her Majesty. Later, when Pharma visits the Empress, her servant Noah asks what reward he wants for saving her. Pharma feels he does not deserve any reward, but if he could choose one thing, he would like permission to open a pharmacy in the capital. Claude then lets Pharma in and asks him to take care of Her Majesty. Pharma visits Elizabeth and gives her the medicine, while she quietly admits that because of her illness, she no longer feels worthy of being called Empress. Pharma gently tells her that people still admire her, including her son and her father, and later we see that Elizabeth has fully recovered, looking so beautiful and healthy that everyone is amazed. During the celebration, Bruno is given the land of Marseille, a place famous for medicinal herb plantations, and soon Pharma is called forward. In front of everyone, the sovereign officially promotes him to royal pharmacist. After that, the Empress gives Pharma a letter saying that once his powers fully mature, he will even be allowed to challenge her for the throne in a duel. Sometime later, Pharma receives permission to open his own pharmacy, and because of that, a construction team arrives to help build it. Ellen also comes to help while Charlotte takes care of him, but Pharma has no clear idea what kind of building he wants. Seeing his confusion, one of the workers casually says that if he does not like the finished building, they can simply rebuild it. A few days later, the storefront is ready, and Pharma is asked to choose a name. He quietly thinks that he finally has his own pharmacy, though he never expected it to happen in another world. Unfortunately, he says this out loud, and the official in charge of recording the name writes it down exactly like that, giving the shop the name Pharmacy in Another World. Later, the head of the Pharmacists Guild, Veron, visits the new establishment and assumes that the prices must be extremely high. Pharma says it is actually the opposite, and that he wants to make medicine affordable for ordinary people. As expected, Veron becomes defensive and says Pharma cannot run a business like that, and when he starts losing his temper, Ellen steps in and chases him away. A little later, Pharma worries about who he should hire to handle accounting and official documents, and while thinking about this, he walks home. When he arrives, he discovers that Cedric has retired and is on his knees, suffering from pain. After learning about his situation, Pharma decides to hire Cedric at his pharmacy and also treat his knees. Pharma then asks Bruno for permission, but Bruno says Pharma does not need his approval because Cedric has already retired. Bruno also gives Pharma a chest full of money to use for his pharmacy. At first, Pharma refuses, but in the end, he accepts the help and thanks his father. With that, Pharmacy in Another World finally opens its doors. 1 month passes, but business is slow, so Charlotte walks around the city and conducts a survey, discovering that most people are not interested because they do not really know what the pharmacy offers. With this in mind, Pharma begins planning how to get closer to the general public. Shortly after, his parents visit the shop in disguise, though Pharma instantly recognizes them. He gives them a tour, but Bruno is not impressed by the lack of customers. Pharma explains that the pharmacy is still unknown, which is why they have not sold many remedies yet. During their conversation, Bruno mentions white face powder, saying it often damages women's health, and Pharma is surprised that his father can tell this just by observing. He adds that in ancient times, cosmetics were often made with harmful substances like mercury and lead. A few moments later, someone rushes in saying that a person needs help, so Pharma immediately goes to the location. When he arrives, he finds a very pale woman. Using divine sight, he notices a wound on her arm and realizes she has been repeatedly bled, causing the wound to become infected. Pharma takes her inside and gives her medicine. Later, he learns that the woman underwent bloodletting to make her skin look paler because she wanted to impress a man. Pharma prescribes medicine for her anemia and infection, then strictly forbids her from using white face powder. The woman says she cannot stop using it, so Pharma suggests that she come back in a week, promising that by then he will prepare safer cosmetics for her. After a few days, Pharma successfully creates a new makeup cream that meets her needs. When the woman asks if it is toxic, Pharma says no, because he made it with materials that are not harmful to health. He also mentions that he will soon speak to the queen so she can ban the manufacturing of makeup made from dangerous substances. Not long after, the woman returns for her makeup and is surprised to see that it is a cream. Pharma explains its benefits and also tells her that she should always remove her makeup before sleeping. She is delighted with the product, and from that point on, word spreads quickly. People from every social class begin hearing about Pharma's healthy cosmetics. A couple of days later, the woman returns again and realizes there is no more cream left. Pharma explains that the product has been selling extremely well, so she proposes opening another store focused only on cosmetics, saying that she and her noble family will finance it. Pharma hesitates for a moment, but she assures him that her family is trustworthy and that she will also handle the paperwork. As expected, they open a cosmetics store. A few more days pass, and Charlotte conducts another public survey. This time, the reviews are overwhelmingly positive. Later, Pharma meets the queen, who is already delighted with the cosmetics he developed. The sovereign tells him that she has banned the production of cosmetics made with harmful materials, but she also warns him to be careful because the manufacturers in that industry will probably be angry and may try to do something against him. Pharma calmly says he is not worried, then adds that he plans to reveal the recipe for his healthy cosmetics so anyone capable can make them. Later, Pharma and his family go to Marseille for vacation, where Bruno gathers the family to discuss the last 5 years of business. Pharma starts getting bored, so they tell him to go outside and play on the beach. He joins Blanche and Charlotte by the shore, and the girls ask him to swim with them. At first, he says no, go, but eventually he gives in, and they all enter the water. Shortly after, Ellen also joins them. Watching the sea makes Pharma think of his younger sister from his past life, and he remembers how 1 year before her death, he had promised to take her to the ocean. Then, in the middle of that memory, Pharma realizes that Blanche has been swept away by the tide. Panic hits him instantly, and he jumps into the sea, desperately trying to save her, but he cannot reach her in time. With no other choice, he uses his powers, destroys the water around him, and creates a barrier that forms an empty circle in the sea. Later, when Pharma lies in bed, Charlotte tells him she was not scared by his abilities, only amazed. She says she wanted to help Blanche too, but she did not know how to swim. Pharma tells her she made the right decision because he would never have wanted both of them to be in danger. Charlotte comforts him and leaves, and when Pharma is alone, he quietly admits that the thing that relieved him most was that Charlotte did not see him as a monster. Not long after, he learns that his store has been attacked by people who hate him, but luckily, citizens helped clean and rebuild the place. Then a woman suddenly appears asking for help, saying her father is badly injured and needs a doctor. Pharma immediately follows her, but when they arrive at the supposed location, the woman disappears, and Pharma is surrounded by armed warriors who reveal that they belong to the Sacred Inquisition. They say they have come to kill him because he has demon-like powers and no shadow. Pharma remembers Ellen's lesson about the temple and the Inquisition and quickly understands the danger he is in. Returning to the present, the leader of the church, Solomon, tells Pharma that he was foolish to walk in sunlight where his lack of shadow could be discovered, then declares that he is a demon disguised as a child. Pharma calmly says he does not want to fight and decides to comply with their demands. They trap him inside a magic circle, but while they are performing the spell, one of the Inquisitor's horses gets frightened, breaking the circle. The Inquisition attacks with fire, so Pharma uses nitrogen to block the flames, then removes oxygen to weaken the fire. Seeing this, they attack him with magical spears, but Pharma refuses to give up and destroys the spears with his power. Even though he clearly does not want to fight, the Inquisitors keep attacking, so Pharma is finally forced to defend himself. He knocks them all down, then stops everyone completely by creating a massive iceberg above their heads and tells them the battle is over. He adds that he does not want to use his powers to harm people, but to heal them. At that moment, Solomon sees the mark of Panakthios on Pharma's shoulder and realizes he has made a terrible mistake. He starts believing that Pharma is Panakthios himself and says the reason he has no shadow is because he is the light. After that, the Inquisition bows before Pharma and apologizes for their actions. Things suddenly become darker when the Inquisitors try to take their own lives as a sign of repentance, but Pharma refuses to let that happen. He uses his powers and notices that Solomon has a broken leg from falling off his horse. Since the injury is serious, Pharma knows he must act immediately, and because he is the only doctor there with advanced medical knowledge, he decides to perform the treatment himself. Pharma tells everyone to forget what they're about to see, then creates an iron table and asks them to place Solomon on it. He also tells them to prepare a carriage to transport Solomon after the operation. Pharma creates a tent to cover the procedure, and Solomon agrees to let him operate. Pharma makes him drink a substance, then gives him a spinal injection to remove the pain. He tests the anesthesia with a piece of ice, and Solomon is stunned because he cannot feel anything. Moments later, Pharma treats the injury, uses Solomon's cane as a brace, carefully stitches the wound, and makes Solomon fall asleep. After the surgery, he informs the other Inquisitors that their commander is out of danger. Then he tells them that he is someone who wants to walk the path of medicine, and he does not want anyone else to know what happened there. Since the Inquisitors now believe he is some kind of god, they promise they will never reveal anything.